Welcome to How I Made It Through. I'm Bernadette Thompson, and I have an amazing guest today, Vinney Todd Tolman, who shares with us the story of his near-death experience and the guide he met and the incredible lessons he learned during that time. At the age of 25, Vinney was pronounced dead and put in a body bag. Nearly an hour later, he miraculously came back to life. His book, The Light After Death, tells what he saw and what he was taught and the message of hope and joy he brought back to him to earth. Welcome, Vinney. Very excited to have you here.
Well, thank you for having me. I sincerely appreciate this. I love these opportunities to share my experience. And that's not to say that it's going to be anyone else's experience, but it's to help us remember that there's a lot more going on in this universe than what we see. There's a lot more than meets the eye. And to give a little background of where I am in life right now, I am in the middle of a move from Las Vegas to Georgia, and I am in Amarillo, Texas today. So, and it's a funny thing. I was born in Texas, so I'm coming from my home state to meet with you today.
Oh, that's wonderful. We'll share a little bit. I know it's a long story, but share a little bit about the NDE and how your life changed.
Well, we have to go back to 2003. So for some of our younger folks, that's going to be a while ago, maybe before you were born. But 2003, I was an amateur bodybuilder as a hobby. I was a home builder by profession, and I had recently broke into TV as a producer, as a production assistant, essentially. And so I was working for a major show for 3 years, and life was good. The show had just gotten canceled, and that allowed me to go back to my building roots and get back into weightlifting, bodybuilding. And in that process, there was a supplement out there that would help your muscle recovery happen a lot faster than normal. And it was a hot supplement. You couldn't find it anywhere. It was sold out everywhere. So I went online, me and my buddy, we ordered a bottle of this liquid supplement from Thailand. And when it came, all the writing was in Thai, which Thai is a scripted language. It's not a language that's, unless you know how to read Thai, you can't read Thai. There's no way to figure it out. There was no Google Translate back then. In fact, Google was in its infancy even, so I was, looking at this bottle, and I opened it. It smelled like the normal liquid that we normally drink in the United States. So we each took just a little bottle cap of this liquid. Unbeknownst to us, this new bottle was actually a pure supplement. It was not diluted with any water. And the stuff we were getting in the United States was a 5% solution with 95% water.
Wow.
So that single bottle cap was like taking 20 bottle caps of what the American stuff was. And of course, that was an overdose. It was just far too much. Instantly, I started to feel the effects of almost like anesthesiology, where if you've ever been put under anesthesiology, you feel coldness start spreading from your heart or your chest down into your legs, and almost a numbness. And as that started to happen, I just could only think, let's go get something to eat, and hopefully that helps us feel better. So we went down to a local Dairy Queen, and we made it through the door, but just barely. We were both losing consciousness even while we were going down to this Dairy Queen. I made it into the bathroom, and I locked the door, and it was there that I literally died. The room started to spin on me. I heard a loud, hard smack, almost like a melon hitting the ground, and I'm sure that was my head. And the next thing I know, I'm not in my body. I don't know that I'm not in my body, but I'm in a different place and I'm witnessing the world from above. And so I feel that I'm kind of, it's a weird thing to say, but I feel like I am sitting in a movie theater looking at this screen, but the screen is of an image looking down from above. And I'm looking at this poor dead man. I can see that he's dead. But in no way did I think it was me, because me was up here looking at this dead man. Kind of like if you pulled up to a car that looked like your car at a stoplight, and the person driving it looked like you, but you're like, but that's not me, because me's over here in my car. That's what I could feel. So I was sitting there looking at this dead man and felt horrible. And somehow, as soon as I had a thought, my consciousness allowed itself to see my friend as well. And my friend had come in and collapsed on the first booth in the restaurant. He started vomiting, and a manager came around and saw him. He called 911. They took him away. They pumped his stomach. They took care of him. He was just fine. He did get out of the hospital the very next day. They kept him overnight. But meanwhile, no one knows there's a dead guy in the bathroom. And so I'm just watching all of this play out. And after almost an hour, this one customer kept trying to use the bathroom, but it was locked. He kept hearing a phone ring in that bathroom. So he went to the manager himself and said, hey, I think someone might be in trouble in there, because there's a phone constantly ringing and no one's answering it, and the door's locked. So I think there's something wrong. And I'm sure it was his intuition. I'm sure it was. So the manager goes over. He's a young kid. He's like 21, maybe 22. He opens the door and sees a dead body, and all he can think is, oh no, another one? That's all he can think. And in a weird way, I was hearing every thought of every person in that restaurant, every thought. And out of nowhere, I'm hearing this restaurant manager's mother in his mind tell him, you're never going to make anything of yourself if you stay at that place. You got to go get a better job. And he was like playing that on a loop in his mind while he was having his own little stress, like stress party, freaking out about all of this. Well, they did call 911 a second time that morning. And again, this is January 18th, 2003. A three-man medic team came to check my body out. And they did diagnose it DOA, so dead on arrival. They attempted resuscitation. They did. But they attempted it just to the strict protocols that their ambulatory service followed. They didn't go any further. Once you find a body and it's cold to the touch, there's only so many minutes that they're going to work on it, and then they stop. And the body was cold to the touch. So they bagged the body. And after they bagged the body, this rookie medic, his job was to sit in the back of the ambulance and babysit this body while the other two veterans went and got witness paperwork signed by witnesses inside the restaurant. And so he's just sitting back there, and again, I can hear every thought in his head. And I keep hearing him say in his own voice, why aren't we doing more for him? Why aren't we doing more for him? It feels like we're not doing enough for him. I feel like he still has a chance. Why aren't we fighting for this? Why am I not fighting for this? And he was, in a way, berating himself, like, do it. Come on, man, just do it. But he wasn't. And they left the scene after about 45 additional minutes of paperwork after they found the body. They left the scene in the ambulance. They were going to take the body to the medical examiner to turn it in, likely for an autopsy. And on their way, this rookie medic um, from my perception, light started glowing around him. And from that light, I heard audibly, very loud, the very strong statement of, "This one's not dead." And I heard it twice. And after the second time, this rookie, he starts breaking the rules. He breaks protocol. He unzips the body bag. He starts, looking for any sign of life, and he doesn't find any, but he does find a little spark or an energetic ignition down in the femoral artery or in the femoral area. And from that was enough for him to go ahead and hook up defib, force oxygen into the lungs. And so he was able to get the heart to start again after 3 rounds of defib. And I went from being a dead guy to being a guy that wasn't dead, but also didn't know he had just died. And I'm watching all of this happen from above. Well, one of the miracles is from the time they pronounced DOA and the time that the heart started was 47 minutes. So likely it was about an hour before that. So it's somewhere between 47 minutes to an hour 47 of total death time, possibly maybe even more. But the miracle is that when he got that heart started, they were a half block away from a hospital that had a cardiology trauma team on site, brand new hospital. And so they were able to pull right in and have a trauma team there ready to meet them. As they were transferring the body over from the hospital or from the medical gurney onto the hospital bed, in that transfer process, the body went into seizure. And as it was going into seizure, they had to strap it down with straps, like physical straps.
Mm-hmm.
And they strapped the legs down, they strapped the right arm down, and then they went to strap the left arm. And I felt someone strapping me down up in this movie theater that I was watching all of this happen. I felt someone strapping my left arm down, and I looked down and I saw the left arm of the body, but it was attached to me. It wasn't down there anymore. It was now attached to me. And I resisted. I actually broke the strap. And they came with a heavier duty strap, and they, like a leg strap, and they put that one on my left arm and then strapped me down. And I'm just thinking, like, what is going on? How is this possible? How is it that I've not known that I've been watching my own death for well over an hour? And so I start feeling all of these fearful thoughts, like, how could I be so dumb? How could I be such an idiot that I was watching my own death and I had no idea? And one of the funniest things is the whole time, because I did work in TV, is I kept thinking, why did the director film this from above? It didn't make any sense. And I just kept thinking that again and again and again. And here I am finding out that it wasn't a movie, even though I was perceiving it as a movie. It was my life being lost as I was dying. And it was an insane moment. And in that insanity, I let fear get into me. And that fear, it spun me into a very dark place. And in that dark place, I literally experienced every bad thing that I ever did in my life. Even from a small child, like 18 months old, 2 years old, I experienced everything negative that I ever did in my life. And I got to the end of that. It didn't seem like very long, but I got to the end of it, and I'm thinking, if this is all that I am, why am I? Why do I exist? And then I started to see all the good things that I ever did. And, thanks to a great mother there was a lot more good things than there was bad things. And, the good life review was so much longer. And I could feel and experience everything good that I ever did, not just within my own eyes, but within the eyes of those who I served, helped, taught, or worked with, or influenced in a positive way. And so I'm sitting here learning that life is dynamic, that as we live this life, we're not just imprinting our experience. We're actually imprinting the experience that we're having with others. Like we're actually imprinting what they're feeling on us. And it was quite surreal to be going through all of this. And as I saw all of these good things that I did, I felt this warmth come over my back, almost like a ray of sunshine pouring over my back. And I could feel directionally it was coming from behind me. So I turned around, and there, larger than life, is this man. He's big. He's to me, probably about 7 feet tall or so. And he's all dressed in white. He's got a long white beard. He's got long white hair down to his shoulders. And he's just sitting there smiling at me. And I can feel his eyes reaching into my soul and hugging it. And I know it's a weird thing to say, but that's the best way to express it. I could feel his eyes hugging me. And there was so much love coming off this man. All I could think was, oh, this is God. And as soon as I thought it, I heard in his voice, without him moving his mouth, he says, "No, son, I'm not God." And, me being confused, not knowing what this was, the only follow-up thought I could have is it Jesus then? Is this Jesus? Is this like a different form of Jesus? And as soon as I had that thought, he just smiled lovingly. And again, using just his mind, he said, "No, son, I'm not Jesus." He said, "I'm your guide to help you go wherever you want to go. I can help you go back to your body." And he motioned back to my body. But at that very moment, there was a nurse straddling the body and injecting like a syringe into the chest of the body. It looked horrible. I mean, the body was covered with vomit. It was in another seizure, probably like the third or fourth one. And when I looked at that, there was no question I was not going to go there. I didn't want anything to do with that. So I told him, I go, no, I don't want to go there. But I asked him, this love that I'm feeling come from you, can I go there? Can I go to that place? And he got really excited. He said, well, that's our home. I would love to take you to our home. And so we began this journey. We essentially took this journey to this place that we all came from, or that we've all been to at least. And, we call it heaven on earth. We call it heaven. But really, it's like a secondary school or a train station of sorts for our soul to go to get recuperated, to get healed, and to get ready for what's next. And so he began to take me on this journey to what he called our home. And part of that was, he told me, he said, "Now, Vinney," and again, he's doing this without using his mouth. He's doing mind-to-mind communication. He goes, "Vinney, this isn't going to be just a traveling of distance. It's going to be a traveling of frequency." And so I would have to raise my love energy or my love frequency to be able to match what heaven is, so that I could get into that place, that very high vibrational place. And I said, let's do it. Let's go for it. And so he goes, you know, the first thing I need to help you understand, and he prefaced all of this. He says, everything that I'm going to teach you, you don't have to fully accept. You just have to be willing to think it's possible that it's true. And as long as I thought it was possibly true, then we could keep moving. And, you know, the first thing he taught me is the most powerful force in the universe is authenticity. And until we can find out who we really are, we can never truly love someone, and we can never receive love from someone until we are authentically ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're loving someone from behind a mask, and you're receiving love from behind a mask, those masks actually get the love, and we don't.
Mm-hmm.
So this guide, he called himself Drake. He said, you know, I can help you take off those masks. So he helped me see where I had many masks. You know, at 25 years old, you wouldn't think you had too many. I probably had 30, maybe 40. I had so many masks. I had masks for my masks.
Mm-hmm.
And he helped me see all of them and put them down. And essentially what he was able to do was get me back to who I was at 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And really, that's what most of us are.
Mm-hmm.
Behind all of our masks, we're children, most of us. And so he helped me get there. And then he explained that I needed to learn why I was here on earth. And he asked me, he said, do you know why you're here? And I said, yes, I'm a good Christian. I know. I'm here to be tested, to be damned, or to go, you know, to hell, or to go to heaven. And that's what life on earth is. It's to sort us out. And he looked at me and he says, I love that you think that's how it is. But there's a little bit more to this. And he showed me how much our Creator loves us. And he showed me that if you are to truly love something, you don't throw it away. Ever.
Mm-hmm.
Ever. And that you can't say you're lovingly throwing something away. It's not possible. Because they're opposite forces. You are either of love or you are of throwing away, which is not love.
Mm-hmm.
And he helped me understand that earth is just a school, that we're here just to go to school. And this is a school to take time away from our Creator, because when we're with our Creator, we are in such synchronization with our Creator. We want everything that our Creator wants. Anything that God wants, we want. Because we love God, or whatever name you use, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's like we are in such synchronization with our Creator that we want anything our Creator wants. And we knew that. So, you know, we got together with our Creator and hatched a plan that we could go to school, Earth School, where we would have to go through almost like a waterfall of forgetfulness,
Mm-hmm.
a veil of forgetfulness. Because even if we could remember how much we love God, it would influence us too strongly that we wouldn't have free agency. We wouldn't have the ability to choose. That's how strong that love is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we're here. And then he taught me that loving everyone is the most important thing to do here. Loving everyone and everything. Because love itself is the atomic principle. It is the force that is running all of this, all of it. And he showed me that in science, even, we are still in our infancy to knowing the true universe, and that there are even elements that are so close to us that we touch it and we haven't even named them yet. He showed me that this beautiful experience of life here, and yes, it is beautiful. When you're looking at it from the eternal perspective, it is beautiful. That we worked really hard to be able to get here. That this wasn't just for anybody. Not just anybody could come to Earth School. We had to earn our way here. So a lot of the proving and the testing was done before we got here. And this is not the place for that. This is the place where we learn and we accelerate our learning here. It's a place to get accelerated learning, really. Yeah. But at that point, Drake, he showed me that we all have an inner voice. And the way he described it is it's almost like a spiritual umbilical cord. And it looks like a silver thread. And it connects through our soul all the way up to our creator. And that through that, there's a voice. There is an inner voice inside of us that we can learn to listen to. And that it's very important that we learn to listen to that inner voice. And he expressed that inner voice can be life-saving for us here. And even more, it can be soul-saving for us here on Earth. So it's important that we learn how to listen. And, this again happened in 2003. There wasn't a ton of technology out there to distract us from our own soul.
Yeah.
But now there is. There's quite a bit out there now. So, his message very much lands strongly now about listening to the inner voice. But then he taught me next that technology itself was going to try to replace God and our relationship with God. That in the future, people would wake up and worship their technology, and they would worship their technology before they would fall asleep. In fact, he showed me that we would be worshiping technology as we would fall asleep. And I'm thinking to him like, I don't think so, Drake. This is one of those ones that I think it's possible, but I really don't think so. But now that I see how people use technology now, you go into a restaurant with a family of 5 or a bunch of friends, and they're just all staring at their phone. They're missing the human interaction. They're missing the energetic interaction. And it is a worship. What the first thing we pick up in our morning and the last thing that we put in our consciousness before we go to bed, that is our worship. Our ancestors put prayers there. And what we put there is technology. So we do worship technology. So that was a big one for me. And he went through and taught me a whole lot of other principles. But one that really stood out was releasing all prejudice. And he asked me, he said, Vinney, do you feel that you have any prejudice? And I said, no, I know for a fact I don't. And then he followed that up with, well, if you don't have any prejudice, how do you feel about prejudiced people? And that's when I let him have it. I said, well, I'll tell you about prejudiced people. And I had a whole slew of words to tell him about prejudiced people. And it, in his mind, he sent this image to my mind of like a little cartoon. And it was the cartoon of Vinney. And I was putting myself on the love side of life. And my prejudice for prejudiced people was lifting me up and putting me over on the prejudice side of life. that even my prejudice for prejudiced people
Mm-hmm.
was itself prejudice. And so that was a huge one. That really blew my mind.
Yeah.
I did not think I had any prejudice in my body. And with that final release, I felt almost like a hurtling, a very strong momentum to our movement to get to this higher place.
Mm-hmm.
He did teach me a few more things, and one of which was that we are all one. That in this life, when we hate or we hurt or we harm another, it's like one finger hurting another finger.
Mm-hmm.
That we're all fingers on God's hand. We are. And
Yeah.
that there's no way to hurt or harm another without hurting or harming ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, as we got through that, that was the last principle he taught me. I started to see our home. And it is a very real place.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, a lot of people talk about going into their mind in meditation and
Mm-hmm.
going to a sacred place, going to a sacred hill or a sacred lake or a sacred mountain in their mind. In my perception, those places are heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why heaven is not just an external place, it's an internal place because we can get there by going within, as well as raising our frequency externally to get there as well. So I was noticing this beautiful, tremendously bright place. And as we approached it, we got closer and closer and closer. There's a whole story about what we had to go through to get to the actual place. But as my feet touched down on grass there,
Mm-hmm.
I felt a weeping come over me. I felt the most tremendous sense of love, the most tremendous sense of love come from this grass to me. And it felt as if I myself was made and created and even existed so that I could plug into this grass. It felt as if I was truly made for this purpose. Because as soon as it touched me, I felt so much healing power of love flow into my body.
Mm-hmm.
And the weird thing is I did have a body. And it wasn't my physical body that I had here, but it was an energetic body.
Yeah.
And it was very, very tangible and real in that space. And I was feeling this grass really, you know, come up and connect with my toes. As it did, I noticed that I could perceive each individual consciousness of every single blade of grass.
Mm-hmm.
That they were singular and they were uniformly loving me just for no other reason than that I exist. Then, you know, they kept referring to me as a divine masterwork.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't quite understand that. I understand it a lot better now.
Mm-hmm.
But they kept referring to, you know, I kept asking, like, why do you love me like this? I don't deserve this. I know I don't deserve this. No one on earth can deserve this. And they expressed to me, we love you because you are you. And I felt just the tremendous healing power of this grass as it plugged in, as it healed my soul. And then I had an experience with flowers, and then I had an experience with trees, and then water, and each one so profoundly beautiful and so connective to the creator or source energy.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed in this place of heaven, everything is light, everything. And that I was light. Every little thing in this place was light. And that we are all light. And we confuse ourselves thinking that we're physical beings when we're actually energetically light, all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm going through all this, I do notice a building, and being in construction, I was having um, a little freak out party about this building because I could tell the entire building was made out of one piece of marble, and that the marble was living. It was a living marble. You could see it vibrate and almost breathe. You could also see liquid light moving through the marble in the walls and the flooring and the columns. And I'm watching all of this, and that's when Drake knows I'm about to ask to go into the building. He knows I want to go in the building. And he knows because, there we know each other's thoughts instantly. And before I could even ask, he came around, put his arm around me, and he said, "Vinney, this is going to be really hard, but it's going to be worth it." And he went really close and looked in my eyes when he said that. And when he said, "But it's going to be worth it." And when he did that, he just brought me in for this deep hug. And with that hug, I felt a huge pulse of energy. It felt as if it was an expansion, um, almost like it was a pulsar or a pulse from the universe or to the universe. And I felt as if I was being held in God's hands as I was being hugged by Drake. I could feel the most supreme amount of love unconditionally to me. Love that no one can be worthy of. No one can be worthy of that love.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a love to be able to earn. It's a love that is given.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was feeling that love, I then started to hear my human brother on earth say a prayer for my body in a hospital. Unbeknownst to me, I had been brain dead for 3 days in a hospital. It wasn't looking good. The doctors had already told my dad and my brother about palliative care, which is, like an aftercare process for brain dead people. And my dad was down to a 24-hour decision that to either pull the plug or find a palliative care center. And my brother knew my dad and knew that he was just going to let nature do its thing and likely pull the plug. And so my brother said this special prayer over my body, and he commanded my soul to return to my body. He commanded it.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it felt instantaneous. But at the same time, I felt like there was eons of time in there as I went back to my body. Because as I was coming back to my body, I could feel all of these angels, and they are very real. These angels were surrounding me, and they were slotting me back into my time. As if time is this rubbery, stretchy thing that they had to stretch and find the right point to put me back in.
Interesting.
And so they did. They stretched time and put me right back into my slot. It felt like I was there in heaven for like a year. It really did.
Mm-hmm.
You could say, "Were you there a year?" And I'd say, "Yes." "Were you there a month?" "Yes." "Were you there a week?" "Yes." But if they said, "Were you there 3 days?" I'd be like, "No, I was there way longer than 3 days."
Yeah.
But because there is no such thing as time, like time doesn't exist,
Right.
time is a perception that we have here. but it's not something we have there. It's an illusion to allow us to perceive a beginning and an end. But they
Mhm.
showed me where my time was, and I snuck a little look over the fence, and I was able to see what's a little bit in our future and see what was in our ancient past.
Yeah.
And they were very much like the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I woke up in my body at 1:11 in the morning on
Oh,
January 21st, 2003, 3 days after I had been found dead in a Dairy Queen bathroom. And it was a miraculous experience. Standalone, it was miraculous. But it was 6 months later, in a beautiful turn of events, that I was sitting in this little high school in Wyoming where my dad had grown up. I was at a family reunion, and I'm sitting in this high school watching a historical presentation about this town of Afton, Wyoming. And I'm sitting here bored, and I'm thinking about other things. At this point, I'm talking to spirit a lot at that point. And so I have a lot to do, even in boring spaces. So I'm sitting there talking to spirit, and out of nowhere, all the spirits stop speaking and everything goes silent. And in that silence, I hear my girlfriend, Andrea. I heard her say, "That's your guide." And I started to say, "That's not my guide." But as I turned and looked at what she was pointing to, I'm sitting here looking at a black and white photo of a man that you can feel his eyes are reaching in and hugging your soul.
mm-hmm.
And as I saw his eyes, I was confused, number one, because it said his name wasn't Drake. It said his name was Charles. And so I was confused, but yet I know for a fact it was him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he even looked exactly like that photo. He looked just like it. His skin was a little younger, but the hair was the same, the beard was the same. I mean, he matched identical to what this photo was.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed his last name was my grandmother's maiden name. And my grandmother happened to live only a few blocks away from this high school. So we picked up our stuff, we left, we went straight to my grandmother's house. I came bursting through the door, and I was yelling like as loud as I could without getting in too much trouble with my grandmother. I was like, "Grandma, grandma, grandma, who is this Charles Kazare? And why do I know him?" And my grandmother goes, "Oh, you mean great grandpa Drake? He's kind of famous in our family." And with that, I dropped to my knees. I started weeping. And my grandmother just looked at me like, "What's wrong with you?"
Yeah.
And then I started weeping and just saying, "I know him. I know Drake. I know Drake. I met Drake." And she listened to me for about an hour. And then she just kind of shook her head and said, "Well, I don't know about that, but he did do a lot of great things here in Wyoming, and in some other states too." And so, I had this beautiful um, multi-dimensional confirmation
Right.
of someone who I had never known. I never saw his face a day in my life until I died. And the next time I saw his face was at that reunion where I
Yeah.
was watching history be played out in front of me. And so it was very miraculous for me. At the
Mm-hmm.
time, I was struggling. I was struggling very bad because I was wondering if I was schizophrenic.
Yeah.
I had sought mental health professionals.
Mm-hmm.
They were borderline telling me that I was schizophrenic because I was hearing spirits.
Mm-hmm.
But then I would deliver what the spirits were saying to say, and it freaked out one of the doctors so badly that he said, "Never come back again." He did say, go see a priest. That's who you need. You don't need to see a doctor. You need to see a priest. But, through all of that, I've learned to honor the experience for what it is. And it's a beautiful confirmation that life is so much more than we allow ourselves to know it is.
Right.
And that if we're willing to playfully open ourselves to the love of our one source creator, no matter what name we put on that creator,
Right.
when we open ourselves to our creator, we can allow ourselves to be the divine masterwork that we were made to be. And that's what I do every day, is I help people embrace their own divine mastery. And it's a beautiful thing to be a part of. And I feel like being one of the luckiest people on earth ever to be able to do this work.
Your story is, obviously amazing. And I first heard it at IANS, at International Association of Near-Death Studies. First of all, it was just learning about what a near-death experience could be. I mean, that in itself, your experience is beyond extraordinary, but I feel like it's beyond extraordinary because that God has such purpose for you. And so that extraordinary story was kind of the platform to allow you to rise, so that, and that's really what it was, because you couldn't leave that audience after hearing your story without that feeling of hope and of understanding that there's more for us. It's incredible that your purpose changed. The purpose of it's what you do now is to teach, is to help people, and it's more than you're a guide. It's not like you're trying to teach people in a way. It is you're trying to bring them to the understanding through your experience of who they are, and it's just remarkable. Before this all happened, I know you had faith. Did you believe in the other side in a way? Did you believe that we could connect with the other side? Did you have any kind of belief about that before the accident and before the NDE?
Well, I had a weird experience with it. As a young boy, I could see energy around people, and if most of us could remember what it was like to be a small child, we would know that most of us could see energy around people. And I would see things move in the dark, and once in a while, I would know when someone was watching us, whether we were supposed to know they were watching us or not. And it was just really, I had a weird sense about energy, ever since I was little, but I was really good at turning it off with trauma, and I had turned it completely off. But before I had my experience, I did believe that God would speak to us through each other. I did fully believe that. There was one moment where, about a year before my experience, I was just walking through a crowd of people, and this woman walked up to me. She grabbed me by the arm and pulled me in and looked me right in the face and said, "The woman with the long blonde hair surrounded by children is going to be your saving grace." And it was really funny because I had never dated a blonde before that, ever. So and it was funny. She came out of nowhere, and she was of the same religion I was. I knew she was because I had a sense for that too. I've always had a sense for people of different religions. I could just sense what religion they were without even asking them. And so I guess I always had these little skills that we all maybe have.
Yes.
I just didn't know how to use it properly.
Right.
And I've really honed in on that through the experience.
Hmm.
And whether the experience did it or the experience gave me the excuse to do it, I feel like it's the same thing.
My awakening came through a trauma experience, but not a physical trauma. My experience of my awakening, where I began to connect with ancestors and then with my guide, happened when my husband was passing away from alcoholism. And so it was emotional trauma. It was chaos. It was, things like that. So I think sometimes trauma can be the trigger that allows us to realize that we do have this connection with the other side. So there were so many things that you shared, but it is letting people know too that an NDE, a near-death experience, is not the only way that we can connect with this vastness of our godly or our creator connection. That it is there for all of us, but it can often be triggered by, in your case, a very dramatic bodily trauma experience.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether you knew or asked this when you did cross, like, was I supposed to have this? Is that's what it was to,
Yeah.
did I sign up for this before I came?
Yeah, I've asked myself that, many times since the experience happened. And, that first year after, it was quite hard, just really, really hard to go from such a great place to back to Earth, which Earth is amazing. It's a
Yeah,
beautifully amazing place, but to get to see our heaven and then come back, that's why we have to go through the veil of forgetfulness,
yeah,
because it is so much better than here even. Uh, you know, Even with the tremendous amount of beauty here, it's just so much better there.
yeah.
So, that first year was very, very tough. And I had a little session with God where I said, I want to see this contract. I want to see. I want to sit down with the man or woman who arranged this. This is not fair. Why was I given the life before I had the experience? I had a very traumatic life before the experience. I mean, at some of the most extreme traumas you can have in life.
Wow.
And then to have this experience on top of it, I'm like, why would God punish someone so much?
Hmm.
And my spirit team said right then, when I was having this little pity party, well, your contract wasn't God's idea.
Hmm. Yeah,
God's idea was to give us the chance to do our contracts.
yeah.
But they showed me the energetic love from my creator went to all these boxes that I checked and said, we're going to uncheck that one. We're going to uncheck that one. You're not going to do everything in one life.
Hmm.
So I did see that it was my own energy, my own soul that had written my contract. But going into my own silver cord, I had to go really, really high, almost to the highest place possible to get acknowledgement from my own soul that,
Hmm.
yes, that's where I said it was okay for me to come back to Earth.
Yeah,
Because down here at the end of that silver cord, I was sitting there saying, how dare you? That's mean. Why
yeah.
would you do this?
It,
And I saw it though. It was me. It was me. I signed my own contract. Yeah.
your contract. Do you still is Drake still your guide?
Yeah, he is um almost a weekly phenomenon for me. He used to be a daily. I now primarily work with Archangel Michael or Michael.
Okay.
And he's my primary guide right now. He has been for about 2 years. Now he's always been kind of a fly on the wall in all of this going on, and
Okay.
assisting, stepping in, and just assisting and facilitating here and there. And it wasn't until about 2.5, I guess almost 3 years ago now, it was about 2023, that I found out that one of these guides that I've been working with, you know, likely my whole life, and I had been knowing since my experience, which had been well over, 20 some odd years, was actually an angel and not just a guide. And he had a name, and I needed to start learning about him and why he's there. And so that was a beautiful process in 2023, to go through. And yeah, we're coming up on almost 3 years of that, since even though he was always there, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't I and I could feel and understand his power,
Mm-hmm.
and understand the presence of God that exists within him.
Mm-hmm.
And how there's a lot of people on earth right now. There's a select bit of them that are of the Michael, or of the army of God. We are getting our marching orders to wake
Yeah.
up, to plug in, to connect
Mm-hmm.
to our general, which is our creator,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is so much bigger than a man or a woman,
Right.
and this tremendous force of love, the master womb, like Christ would say, the ab womb,
Mm-hmm.
of our creator, and plugging into our captain, our general,
Yeah.
and starting to get our marching orders, and not in an army of fighting
Mm-mm.
um,
Mm-mm.
battles with weapons, but to fight battles with love and service and gratitude and grace. And
Mm-hmm.
that this is where the battle is happening, that they're talking about in Revelation, is it's happening right now in front of our own eyes.
And I find so many people get drawn to you, Vinny, just because of your story, but they're drawn to you because there is this, they feel it in their bodies. Like you are the person they're supposed to be listening to right now, because that's how the creator is reaching them. Listen to Vinny. That spoke so powerfully to me when you were sharing that, because that really ultimately is what this process, that's how we rise. When we allow ourselves to know who we really are, we start to remember
Yeah,
who
we
we really.
we awaken the divine masterwork inside of us.
Yeah.
And what's really neat is, as we embrace the marching orders to awaken those light bodies, those
Mhm.
forces of light inside of us, we start to realize our true programming.
Right.
That our soul is actually programmed to do and be certain things on earth, and in this life. Yeah.
Mhm.
It does. To me, understanding our creator, our God, um, you we talk about religion or religion.
Mhm.
It's a legion of people who gather under uniformity or acceptable commonality.
Right.
And that to truly know God, you need to know all legion,
Mhm.
not just a religion. You need to know all legion. So to me, I see religion as a um, essentially a chakra on the body of God. And
Mhm.
that for me to know God, I need to learn all that I can here
Mhm.
from all the different points of view.
Right.
And as I'm doing that, I'm igniting that silver cord inside me. And I'm feeling a truth from over here, a truth from over there, a truth from over there. And all of a sudden, before you know it, I have a web of truths. And in
Yeah.
that web of truths, I'm seeing the force of our Creator show up
Hmm.
and in a tremendous way.
Yeah.
And I love looking at it that way, that, a religion is like a chakra on God's body, and each one has its
Yes.
tenets, its benefits,
Right.
its principles, but I love learning from all of them, including the lost religions.
Hmm.
Those to me are some of the most mysterious and beautiful, is the lost religions of gnosis and
Yeah.
the monad, and really learning about the early teachings of Christ for
Yeah.
myself. I do study Christ extensively, and I see Christ as um, much more than what the world has ever described him to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really amazing because, I went to Al Anon, which is an offshoot of AA for families.
Hmm.
And one of the things they taught was to take what you like and leave the rest. And so that, when you were just going there, like, I got something from here, I got something from there. I definitely have an ancient geek in me that loves, not only the religions but civilizations, knowing that there is source. Actually, my crown chakra is lighting up right now, knowing that source, that God is there as well. Time goes by so quickly, and so
Hmm.
it is time to wrap up. um, is there anything that you would like to share, or tell people how to reach you, or we had, you know, in God's living God's light. Is there
Hmm.
anything else you'd like to share?
Yeah, livinggodslight.org is a nonprofit that I formed with my co-author of the book, Lynn Taylor. And it's a nonprofit that helps people activate their own relationship with source, with creator. um, no matter what name they associate with creator. It's a common safe space for people to come in unity and lovingly share their life experiences in beautiful ways and inspirational ways. And I was called to do this and to establish Living God's Light to be a worldwide international organization, so that we can all find each other, God's army, truly
Yeah.
God's army, for us to find each other, support each other, and to be the community that all of us are aching to have.
Yeah. I love that you use that word ache. You know you're on the right path when that ache is there.
Yeah.
That's how they lead us, follow the ache. Well, Vinny, we could obviously talk for probably about 2 or 3 more hours, but
Oh, yeah.
it's been amazing, and I'm so grateful. And I'm going to put it up one more time. Livingingodslight.org, to find Vinny, and just, and his book. So thank you so much, Vinny.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And it's been a tremendous pleasure. And, we got to have the guest appearance of Luna, my dog there.
I
She
love it.
she's my session dog. She helps people heal as I do sessions,
Awesome.
and help people on their spiritual journey. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Vinny.
Thank you.